Good morning, YouTube. Today, I am going to go ahead and do another video, and I'm thinking about making this vlog number 1 if I decide to do regular vlogs like I was thinking about. Before we get into that, I have to show you something. Now, yesterday, I want to start the video out today outside because I did so yesterday as well. And yesterday I was talking about how beautiful it was out. It was 60 degrees. I was thinking about taking the convertible out for a spin. Well, today it's not so beautiful. And actually, up at my job, I work an hour away from my house, and we got 7 inches of snow up there. And here where I live now, I'm sure you can see it on the roof, but we got 4 inches down here. This weather, I'm telling you right now, it's crazy. I know Boxing Boa, I know you were blaming Going Youper for the snow you got. I might jump on that bandwagon and also blame them. So thanks Going Youper for having the snow come here to Pennsylvania as well. But as you can see, yep, we got snow. And honestly, it's already in the 40s, so I'm sure all this is going to melt today. But it's just the point that, damn snow again. It's almost like Mother Nature said, hey, here's a 60-degree day, April Fools, here's some snow for you now. Absolutely ridiculous. But anyway, I say we go back inside and get this video started. What do y'all say? Let's do this. Alright everyone, well, I am back inside now, and I have Patches out with me, and you can see her eyes aren't milky anymore, which means he will shed his skin anytime now. I have to work tonight, and I bet by the time I get home in the morning, he will have a fresh, beautiful new paint job. But I just wanted to give you an update on him real quick. I won't keep him out too long though, because when they shed their skin, it's not a comfortable process they go through. I've been told that you can almost compare it to a sunburn of hours. So, you know, it's not something that feels good to them. So, I just wanted to show you that his eyes are back to normal again, and he's not as dull looking in his colors. But I know tomorrow he will, like I said, have a fresh paint job. But I'm going to go ahead and put this beauty back in there and let him relax a little bit. And I will be right back with you guys. What do you say we hang out with Krusty for a little bit now? This video's not going to be too long. I've just had a few questions over the past couple days, and I would like to get those answered for my viewers and friends out there. If you didn't know yet, I created an Instagram, and I now have a Twitter page. So be sure to go on there and follow me on those 2 pages. But just so we make sure that's not a huge drawn out video, let's go ahead and get to some of the questions I've had from people over the past few days. And another thing before we get started, I wanted to give a shout out to my good friend David. Actually is a battle buddy of mine who served with me over in Afghanistan. And he had sent me a message a couple days ago letting me know that my videos almost had some kind of effect on him and got him to purchase his first ball python, which I think is awesome. Like I said, when I first started doing these videos, the same thing happened to me when I was watching Brian Barczyk's videos. And before that, I was scared of snakes, had misconceptions of them, and now I love them to death. So he actually got his snake today. I got a message, and he sent me a picture. It is a female, I want to say it's a pastel banana, which you all know I have Kong, who is a male super pastel banana. So I'm sure me and David will be doing some talking here in the future to possibly set them up to see if we can possibly breed them. Because as you know, bananas are one of my favorite morphs out there. But anyway, he sent me a picture, so let's take a look at David's new pastel banana female ball python. See if you guys can see it in there. That is a beautiful banana. And like I told you in other videos about bananas, some of them have more black freckling than others. You can see, I don't know if you can see it or not, this one has a good many of them. But like I said, that is definitely a beautiful ball python right there. Alright, let's get right into some of these questions that people have asked me lately. The first question that I've been getting asked a good bit from people who are either thinking about having ball pythons or who are new to having ball pythons are, what is the perfect humidity to have inside your ball python's enclosure? I keep mine, or I try to keep mine, between 50 and 60% humidity. If it goes a little bit higher than that, it's not a big deal. But do keep an eye on that. If the humidity's too low, your ball python is going to have probably some issues when it comes to shedding. And if it becomes too high, if your humidity is too high, you can actually have bigger issues than just having issues shedding properly. If your humidity is too high, you run a chance of your snake possibly getting scale rot. Or another big issue that you could have is your ball python getting a RI, a respiratory infection, which is not good, because if that happens, you're gonna have to take it to the vet and get shots, and it's just something you want to try to stay away from. But like I said, the perfect humidity for me, I like to keep it between 50 and 60%. Preferably, If it goes up to 65, 70%, I don't get too worried about that. Okay. So the next question is temperatures inside the enclosures. On the hot side of the enclosure, where I have the heat tape and the one hide, I like to keep it at a 90-degree hot spot. And on the cold side, the ambient temperature, I like to keep the ambient temperature inside there as close to 80 degrees as I can. Anywhere from 75 to 80 is fine. Just make sure it's not dropping down into the 60s and stuff like that. That's where you could come across run into some issues if your cage is that cold. But that was another question I had, was about temperatures. How big of mouse or rat should I feed to my ball python? And that's a good question. What I always do is, as you can see, I always go off the chunkiest part of the belly here, the meatiest part of the belly, and the size of that is what I go off of to feed. So if I have a rat pup, let's say, that is the same size as the girth of the belly right here, that is the size of prey that I'm going to feed to him. After you feed your ball python, if you see a little lump in the belly where you can see where the food is, that's perfectly fine and normal. Don't worry about that. But that is how I feed and pick the correct size prey items to feed to my ball pythons. Another question I had: how long can your ball python go without eating? And honestly, this is a question that a lot of people ask, and there are a lot of different answers out there. However, your ball python can go a long time without eating. I remember seeing a while back that the longest reported without eating for a ball python was, I want to say, somewhere close to a year that ball python went with no food. So, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why your ball python will go off a feed. It could be because they are going into shed. It could be breeding. It could be a new setup in their enclosures. There are lots of reasons that could cause your ball python to go off of feeding. So don't get too concerned if you go to feed them one week and they refuse to eat. It's not a big deal, honestly. Just make sure the temperatures are correct. Just make sure everything that you can do to help out with their enclosure, the water, the temperatures, all that, make sure everything is perfect. So then it is on the snake to whether or not they want to eat. Best part of the day to feed your ball python. The best part to feed them would be at nighttime. As you know, they are nocturnal animals, and they come out and hunt at nighttime. I know that I have a few of mine here who they don't like to strike feed, which means I have to lay their frozen thawed mouse or rat in their enclosure and shut it up before they will even eat. So it all depends on the animal. you may have to do that, but what I always do is I'll go through, and the ones who I know will strike feed, I'll feed them and close the enclosures up. And then the ones who don't usually strike feed, I'll go back and try to get a strike feed on them. And when they don't, I just lay the food item in their enclosure, shut it out, shut the enclosure up, and that's it. I go to bed. I wake up first thing in the morning. First thing I do is come back over here and open those enclosures up to see if they have eaten it or if it's still laying in there. If it's laying in there, you're going to want to take that out and dispose of it. You don't want to leave that in there too long because it will get nasty. One thing you do want to keep an eye on and watch is, I know Sudoku is popular for doing this. She'll strike at it, or even if she doesn't strike at it, you put it in her enclosure, she'll get a hold of it and she'll pull it into her hide on the warm side. And then you have to just guess, well, I hope she ate that, because the one time I came in here and I noticed how bad the smell inside the room was. And I thought at first I had a dead snake in here, but then I opened up the her enclosure and I removed the hide. And what did I see? I saw a rat pup in there, almost melted to the bottom of the enclosure, because she pulled it in there and just left it lay there, didn't try to eat it. And it pretty much got cooked inside there, which after that, I had to get a new enclosure, because no matter how much F10 I used, I could not get rid of the smell inside the tub. And that is the reason why I have Sensi's and stuff like that inside the snake room now. But yeah, that's another thing you gotta make sure. Make sure you feed it at nighttime. You check in the morning to make sure that it's not still in there. And also make sure you look inside their hides also to make sure they're not actually hiding it in there. Oh, another good question. I had one person ask me, should I move my snake to a different tub for feeding, which otherwise is known as a feeding tub. I actually did that when I first got them, well, when I first got Chewy, and the answer to that is absolutely not. Don't do that. Some people say to do that. The only problem that I realized with that is you move it to a new tub, and the thing is, you're not supposed to handle your ball python after it's done eating. So if you have it in a different tub, how are you going to get it out of the feeding tub and back into the tub it's living in? I came to realize, and it's a pain in the butt. I did that one time when I first got Chewy, my first ever ball python. Ever since then, I feed them directly in their enclosures, and they are perfectly fine. There's no such thing as cage aggression. There is such thing as food aggression, but a lot of people say you want to feed them in a different enclosure because of cage aggression. There's no such thing. That actually is a myth. I've done some research. I've talked to a few people, ball python breeders, on that, and every answer I get tells me that's not a thing. So no, do not move your ball python to a feeding tub to feed them. Feed them in place inside the enclosure where they are living. And another note on that subject of having a feed cage, like I said, you're going to cause more harm than good if you try to move your ball python out of its enclosure and into another enclosure for them to eat, honestly. So make sure you do not do that. That's a no-no, obviously. I think I have a couple I want to say here. Okay, and another question. How long after feeding my ball python should I wait before I handle them again? With me, I know a lot of people I talk to have different answers. I know Brian at BHB says 6 hours do not handle them 6 hours prior until 6 hours after feeding. A lot of people say 24 to 48 hours. Some people say 48 hours. I typically will not touch them at least for 24 hours. After 24 hours, if you have to get them out of there to clean their enclosure, stuff like that, that's fine. But you're not going to want to handle them right after they eat, that's for sure. So my rule of thumb is 24 hours, but like I said, Brian, he says in his videos that just don't handle them within 6 hours prior and 6 hours after. And while we're on the subject of handling, for everyone who does get a new snake, I know you're going to want to get it out and show it to the whole family and let the whole family hold it. And I know I was like that. However, you do have to remember one thing. Let your new snake get well accustomed to its new living environment. Try to give it at least 3 days before you actually handle it and stuff like that. Like I said, try to wait 3 days after you get your new ball python before you start handling it all the time. That's a good rule of thumb, and a lot of people do say that. When I first got them, everyone I talked to told me the same thing about waiting 3 days before getting them out and handling them and stuff like that. So that's a good rule of thumb. If you get a new ball python, just let it settle in for at least 3 days, and after that 3 days, then you can play with it and introduce the whole family and stuff like that. I know it's tempting because I've been in the same boat as everyone else, but just like I said, just let them get settled in for a while before you do that. All right, I know. I mean, look how cute they are. But like I said, you guys can wait 3 days. It's not going to kill you. Real quick, before we finish this video, I just want to go over a few myths that are out there that, I mean, I've heard and I've heard other people talk about them. Just so you know, like I said, they're myths. They're not true. So before I do get questions about these certain things, I just want to crush them now. And like I said, let you know that these few things I'm about to say are myths. They're not true. The one myth that I saw out there, which was kind of funny when I was looking stuff up, is ball pythons will grow to the size of their enclosure. Oh my God. Meaning, if you have a ball python in a 28 quart tub, that your ball python is going to grow to the size of that tub and then stop growing, which is absolutely ridiculous and pretty funny if you think about it. So there was one myth that I saw. Another myth that I saw out there is that you can potty train a ball python. You can't potty train a ball python. So that is another funny myth. All right, everyone. If you heard the knocking on the door back there, that's because my little man, Derek Jr., was back there knocking on the door wanting his daddy. So I traded handling a ball python for handling a big baby. How about it? Say hi to everyone. Say hi. Say hi. Clap for everyone. Clap for Daddy's channel. Clap for Daddy's channel. No? There you go. Yay for Daddy's channel. But, go over a couple more myths real quick that aren't true, and then I'm going to end this video. Another myth that I had seen was that ball pythons need a basking light to survive. You hear him? He just said, And he's right, Ball pythons do not need basking lights. Do some people use them? Yes, but at the same time, I used one before, but not for a basking light. Just because when I used the heat mat, I had them in a different room that didn't keep the temperature up. So I actually used the basking light on the same side as the heating mat, and I had it over top of it just to get the ambient temperature up throughout the enclosure. But it was not for the ball python to bask underneath it. So again, that myth about ball pythons needing basking lights to survive is false. They do not need that. And obviously, if you guys have ever touched a ball python, another myth that some people say is that they're slimy. And if you've ever, yeah, see, he's giving the vlog for me. Yeah, tell him all about it. Yeah. Yeah, are ball pythons slimy? No, they are not. Ball pythons are not slimy at all. Yeah, you tell them. Like my boy Tyler said in the last video, is they almost feel like a tire kind of consistency. But yeah. Yay! Yay for Daddy's channel. But anyway, everyone, I hope you enjoyed this video. For the people who have sent me questions and stuff like that, I hope I answered all your questions. And I hope I didn't leave anybody's questions out of there. But again, I just want to thank everyone who has subscribed to my channel and who has shown so much support for me recently. We are now over 90 subscribers, so we're going strong still. But anyway, I hope you all have an amazing day, and I will be sure to see you all again very, very soon. Take care, everyone. Say bye. Say bye. Say bye.